Hey guys, it's Tyler here. Doing another phone video because why not? The microphone quality and the visual quality, so that you can see that I've just gotten out of the shower, are much better here. I was thinking, as one does in the shower, about something we don't really talk about a lot in the 4D space, which is, why do the models matter at all, right? There's been a lot of pushback against the model, and I want to cover two main issues with that. And the first is, well, okay, why model at all? Why model in the first place? I've seen some pushback from guys like Ivan and Roleplay Cafe, I believe. Apologies if I'm misremembering. There's been a lot of these videos recently who say that the models are imperfect and they're trying to pigeonhole. And so that's two things that I want to cover, which is, why have a model in the first place? A model is definitionally imperfect. You cannot have a perfect model. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a model. It would be the thing, right? If you build a model kit, that's just it. It's a model of a tank. It's a model of a big robot or something. It's not that thing. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called a model. And that's what this whole 1D through 4D thing is. It's a model. It's to give you an idea. So, of course, it's not going to be perfect. None of these are going to exactly describe what a session is. And that's why we often say, watch the sessions, watch the actual plays, if you want an idea of what we're talking about. Just reading the little description of what we're aiming for, that's not going to give you the whole thing. And that's the other thing, is that's what we're aiming for, right? Just as the model isn't perfect, we're not perfect, right? That little description is kind of it's the professionally painted one that's done on the back of the box. When we say things like, we want the session to be 100% role played, yeah, we want that. We would love that. We would love to have the Maijin Kawaguchi Plasmo, or name your favorite artist. We'd love our thing at home to look like that, right? But we also understand that that's it's not exactly possible, right? But that doesn't mean you should just throw your arms up in the air and give up, right? What other art form does that, right? What other hobby says, oh, let's just not have models for anything. Let's not have anything to compare against for 40 years, right? The hobby's 40 years old and we still don't have models. And that's kind of the big issue. Yeah, point at models, point at how the things could be improved, point at how some deficiencies in the modeling, but come up with a solution, right? The whole reason that and I say we, really the only thing I've done is coin the RPG Crusade term, but the reason that Rick and Max and Shauner and Crispy and Phil and all these guys, growing by the day, there are dozens of us, have coined this 1D through 4D thing, is so that, well, we can have a model. It's crazy that, again, after 40 years, we don't have a model. The closest thing we would have is the pillars of roleplay, but nobody likes that either, right? No one can really explain what the exploration phase of a roleplay game is. I could explain to you what it is. 99% of the time, it's the GM talks at you. The GM gives you a Dickensian description of the tablecloth for 15 minutes, and everyone's bored to tears on their phone playing something else, or, painting their model, speaking of. But it's that pillars of roleplay thing is very platitudinal. It doesn't describe explicitly what it means by roleplay. Roleplay is only a third of a role-playing game. What do you mean by that? They mean talky talk, usually, as Shauner would say. What do they mean by exploration? Again, it's usually a lore dump. And what do they mean by combat? Well, okay, there's one of the three that we can agree on, except this puts it at an ideological opposition with role play, which of course, if you watch our actual plays, you can see that, and many home games, you can role play combat. I think most people naturally role play combat until the rules start to get in the way. Totally different topic. But, and then there's this idea that the 4D thing is sort of pigeonholing. It does the opposite. Whereas the pillars is too platitudinal, 4D is too prescriptivist. But our goal isn't to be prescriptivist. Our goal is to be descriptivists, which is to say we're seeing very different styles of players and very different styles of play groups and trying to describe how those work. The point of this isn't to pigeonhole and point at and laugh at people. We occasionally do that, right? But it's usually only after there's been some hostility towards the idea of even making the labels in the first place, right? We don't go after random people. It's not like and if we do, right, if occasionally Shauner finds some random people that he's never seen before and is, poking fun at something they've made, it's in good faith, right? It's with the hope that they will improve. I do things all the time. I was in the last game I played with Rick and them. I had totally forgotten that we were in like sealed, contained spacesuits. I was envisioning Alien too much, and so I've got a hat on, and everyone else has got these spacesuits, and I'm just like, oh, what, do I have a hat on top of my spacesuit? This makes no sense, So I can laugh at myself in that way, and, know that that's something I need to improve. I need to envision the scene a little better and remember the context of everything, and maybe on Rick's end and the other player's end, images would have helped with that. I joined very last minute, so who knows? The thing, though, at the end of the day, is why does the model matter in the first place if it's not to point and laugh at other people? Well, imagine you're at the YMCA, or if you live in a country that doesn't have the YMCA, your local gym, and, some random strangers ask you for a pickup game of basketball. And you think, all right, I'll jump in for a pickup game of basketball. And one of the guys is just shooting crazy three-pointers. He's the most athletic person you've ever seen. You absolutely cannot touch him all of a sudden. You'd be going, what the? I thought this was just like a friendly, random game of basketball, but this guy's destroying me. A hustler in pool. You're just like, oh yeah, sure, I'll play pool. Oh, you want to play over $20? Whatever. And they just totally cleans you. Every single game is just like, wait a minute. The labels are about bait and switches, right? When people who are generally opposed to labels, I'm sorry, but it really feels like you want to bait and switch people and then trap them in your game now that you've presented them with something that they didn't expect. You give them an idea that Dungeons & Dragons or role-playing is this infinite freedom game and you can do X, Y, and Z, and then you railroad them. You trap them in this thing. Or even if you're not necessarily railroading them, every time they try to do something that the limited structure of the game doesn't explicitly allow for, you go, no, you need this feat for that. No, you can't do that. There's no rules for that. Oh, well, no. Yeah, that would make more sense if grappling was done that way, but you can't do that. Where's the limited freedom? Now I've spent 4 hours at your house because you were opposed to a label? Which one of us is the elitist here, huh? It's not that we're trying to pigeonhole you and say, you must continue playing that way. We're saying we see that you do play in a certain way, or that certain people do play in given ways, and want to describe that. That way, we can get out of the way and we can say, this is a pickup game, but I'm, a semi-professional basketball player, right? Let's just do some friendly sparring. What's friendly sparring, right? You don't want to do friendly sparring with a total stranger and then get knocked out and get CTE for free, right? Right, you're not getting paid for anything, when we talk about kickboxing, nobody's opposed to the label kickboxing. Nobody's opposed to the label, normal boxing, because the rules are different, right? But even in things where the rules are the same, take a Commander format Magic the Gathering, all of the rules are the same, but each table is going to have a different preference for power level. So, again, while imperfect, people will rate the power of their own decks. Say, mine's a 4 out of 10. It's not very powerful. Mine's an 8 out of 10. It's a pretty powerful deck. That way, you don't have one guy that's either having no fun at the table or one guy that's just stomping everybody else at the table. It's just common courtesy. That's what labels are. And you accept that little bit of imperfection as a starting point to then expand upon it. If somebody says, for example, well, I'm running kind of like a 2.5D game. There's some aspects of 3D that are in this game, there's some aspects of 2D that are in this game. I wouldn't immediately say I'm not interested. I would say, tell me more. Whereas if someone's saying, I'm running a 1D game, I kind of am gonna, I've got a general story that I've written out here. I want to use the game mechanics to see how the story changes, but ultimately I am expecting your characters to go down a sort of pre-written path that they can modify in little ways, perhaps. Then I would say, okay, I'm not interested. I don't want to sit down for 4 hours and be a human die roller, right? Not my thing. And that saves us the 4 hours of being, that guy Kai in Bear's game where he gets, halfway into it and he can't do what he wants with his character. If Bear had been upfront with what exactly his game would have entailed, with something as simple as a quick, my game is generally 2D, is generally 3D, is generally 4D, he could have dropped it. I'm of the opinion that, typically I like 3D a little better than 4D because 4D is really interesting, but I wouldn't want to play it as my main game, I don't think. Just because it requires, I'm having to think just as much as my character as I am having to think, how can I play around with the co-creation and would this be too much? Would this not be too much? And then I end up, wearing a hat on my space helmet because I'm not paying full attention to that as much as I am thinking about what is going. So, but I do enjoy it. So there are days when somebody would say, "Hey, I'm running a 4D game," and I go, "No, not right now. I've had a rough day at work. I kind of need to just kick back and I need to put it into 3D, right? Oh, you drive a sports car, right?" This is an issue with labeling and marketing, and this is my last thing because I'm going to go on a tangent here. Oh, I drive a sports car. Oh, what do you drive? Oh, a Porsche Cayenne. No, that's an SUV, man. This is not a sports car, right? When the labels start to become too, way far off, that's when they become a problem. But dismissing them in their infancy just creates a situation where you make these hour long videos back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, talking over each other's points when at the end of the day, the label is they're made to save us time. That's it. It's not made to make a values judgment against someone. It's not made to pigeonhole someone. It's just made to save us time. Hopefully that helps somebody out there. Probably boring meta commentary, but I needed to get these thoughts into the void of YouTube. Hopefully this picked up my voice fine and the audio quality's not too terrible. See ya.